Total costs of initial implementation $39.48. Is this just for K through 5?
Yeah.
And did somebody say that we already use this in the middle and high school, which would give us one? So is this already implemented in the middle and high school?
Yes.
I see.
I think they are using, at the middle school, they were using a digital version for a while. I think the cost is the cost. You get a site license to use their website versus they will send you the actual hard copies of the teacher manuals. And then after each year, each workbook is $3 a kiddo. So depending on how many students we have, we would purchase those books year to year.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Jenny, can you clarify, have we adopted this curriculum for the high school? For some reason, I thought that was still under review, but maybe I forgot.
No, I think the process of adoption started before I got here. So we just needed to get it ordered. And I think the adoption process started, we got put on hold because of COVID, finished it. And then we've ordered it. And we also did the online version as well as two sets of in-house. So those should be, well, we have access to the online already, and then the in-house books should be arriving anytime.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I just quickly, it says on that thing that it's $3 per student, 300 students, and it says $600, but is it really like $900?
Yep.
Okay. I just was like, at first I was going, there's only 200 kids, but then I read it. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. I was just checking.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Lacey, did you want to take the reins? I see that you're on.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley, for starting.
You're welcome.
If you don't mind, can you keep going just for a little bit? I'm trying to get just a little bit of food in me. I've not eaten since my lunch hour, and I don't want to get a headache. So
okay, yeah.
And I apologize for eating on camera, everyone. I just didn't have a chance to grab something. Thank you, Ashley.
All right. So next, it looks like we're going to do amend evaluation cycles for the 2021-2022 school year. Mike, did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I've proposed this to the board. Each year you adopt the evaluation cycle for teachers and staff. ODE has recognized the lift that has been happening in the workload for delivering either system, whether it's online or in person during the COVID crisis. And they want to help support districts and give us an option to kind of take a little bit off the plate. And so they've given us this opportunity, this flexibility to move into a modified evaluation system. In this evaluation system, it doesn't take any of the formal procedures out of probationary teachers or temporary teachers or probationary administrators. They're all on full cycle evaluations. What it does is take the observations and some of the other time-consuming things off of the plates for our permanent teachers. So with our permanent teachers, we have asked them to submit their goals for the year, their student growth goals and their professional growth goals. And then at the end of the year, they would finish up the year with a reflection back on those goals. They normally would. It's especially heavy on our administrators this year. I mean, we have hired so many teachers as a result of the things that have happened through COVID in the last year and a half, nearly coming up on 2 years now. But they have anywhere from 6 to, I don't know what Amy's gotten in Creswell, maybe 10, 12, 15 new teachers, probationary teachers and temporary teachers, each building. That's a heavy load. And for them to give that quality coaching to those new teachers that are in Creswell. They really need to dedicate that time to them. And so, and it's similar across the state, which is why ODE has come up with this. So the steps to complete or to amend the evaluation for this year would be to consult with educators and the local bargaining association. I've collaborated with the association president and got the thumbs up to move forward with the board. Step 2 is to consult with the board to get approval to move forward with this amendment. And then the third step is to complete and submit to ODE a notification and attestation form that we will comply and meet all the formal observations of our probationary and temporary employees and the goals procedure. So I guess I'm asking the board to approve this.
So Ashley, I think we need a motion first and then we can discuss.
Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the evaluation cycle that includes probationary teachers and administrators and lets us hold on our more senior teachers.
I second.
Great. Any questions or comments for Mike?
I just want to say I'm in support of the effort. I know the administrators and teachers that are helping support the new teachers are swamped and overwhelmed and doing the best they can. And I appreciate that it still ensures that we're supporting the new teachers that do need the help. But I don't see any issues with just giving some time on teachers that have been in the classroom for a while and are doing a great job. So.
I have mixed emotions about this. The HR person in me finds evaluating people very insightful and a good way to engage with your employees. But I understand from a COVID perspective and a timing perspective, the need to maybe redirect our efforts this year, but I don't know. I have mixed emotions.
It is temporary for this year. And while we're in this mode, the administrators and also the association are going to collaborate to build a new evaluation system that will be efficient. Right now, we have a paper system that's moving very slow. It's like snail in the mail, but we want to get to the online system where things can be more efficient for both teachers and administrators to be able to move through the system. And then also with an online evaluation system, we can submit those documents to the state through that system rather than going and down or uploading it all into another software with ODE and submitting it there. So we have a system now that leans towards what's called the Danielson evaluation system.
Oh, okay.
To be focused on teacher growth and development.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a collaborative model.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's intended to be. But there are some things missing out of the current system we have. And we want to shore that up. Teachers have asked for it, but since I arrived here, administrators, now we have new administrators that want to get together and have this party or this committee meeting with the teachers and work together to get this system and dial it in.
Interesting. So will we be using the Danielson rubric for evaluation going forward?
Well, that's what would be one of the tools that come out of this, but that would be up to the committee to determine how that's going to be, which rubric is going to be used, but that's the one we've been using for the online system. We adopted the Danielson system while we were teaching in CDL, the CDL version. Now we want to move to the in-person move. We had an MOU to bring that in. It was approved by the board to use during CDL. And that was the preferred model for everyone, administrators and teachers. So
It's kind of the
I go-
gold standard right now, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of the gold standard in education at this point, isn't it? The
Yeah.
Danielson rubric. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm supportive. I'm just hesitant of not evaluating employees on a regular basis. That gives me concern. If there's, not that I think we have low performing educators, but if we do, there's always a concern that we're not catching those in a timely manner or correcting in a timely manner. So
Mhm. If we had concerns or any teachers on a plan of assistance, we would continue with that. That would not be included in this.
okay.
That would be, they would be under the formal evaluation system.
Okay.
Good question. I like your thinking.
Great. Anybody else?
I have one last thing. I would love a demo or something if we really are going with a new evaluation tool. I think we've talked about teacher evaluations in a variety of forms in the last few years and creating consistency amongst our groups and how we choose to evaluate and how we choose to give feedback. And I would love to have a demo to the board at some point on what that committee has come up with.
Oh, absolutely. They will present it to you and you'll approve it for implementation next year.
Sounds good.
That's the charge. In fact, after this meeting tomorrow, I'll be sending the notice out to the licensed staff recruiting for the committee. And we already have our administrators lined up. Then the association president will select the licensed employees that will be on that committee with our administrators, and the work will start. We intend to have the work completed by spring break.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. And it is unanimous. Great. All right, next is to discuss Division 22 standards.
Yeah. Okay, lots to think about with the Division 22 standards, a lot of boxes to check off there. So the deadline for the Division 22 assurances has changed. It's moved up this year. And this was at the request of superintendents to ODE. Having the assurances come later in the year was really not effective if you're going to be working on assurances for the year. So we wanted them sooner than later. So we requested that they move the deadline up. So November 1 is the due date to have our Division 22 submission. In order to meet the November 1 deadline, we need to plan and include the Division 22 report on the local school board's October agenda, which I've laid out there. And then from there, once we get the plan presented to the school board, then we put it up online and then we submit it by no later than November 15th. In our Division 22 report, we are out of compliance in one area, and that is in health education. And in 2019-20, we discovered that we were out of compliance, and I submitted a request for postponement for us to get into compliance. And then at the end of that year, that was disrupted by the shutdown and going into the COVID-19 response. So ODE put a pause on all of those postponements until this year. And so we resubmitted another request to postpone our health education curriculum adoption to be in compliance until this fall. And so with what we've done tonight in this board meeting with our K-5 health education, we will be in compliance when I submit this report to them. The next curriculum or subject area that we'll be working on to be in compliance will be math. So once we complete the evaluation, building our evaluation tool or system, then we're going to be moving into our math adoption process or a formal adoption, K-5 math. There are several of these on the Division 22 standards, several of them that were waived because of the situation last year. Did you all have anybody have any questions on this?
All right. Okay. The next thing that we have on the agenda for discussion is the 2021 Creswell Schools at a Glance profiles.
Yeah, so every year, ODE reports out on all school districts and how they're doing with some of the student achievement measures. And in this year, they made some changes to the report on the data that they were collecting and reporting out on. However, we didn't have assessments. We didn't have standard, whether the participation was so low, they didn't have a significant return on data to report out on student assessments across the state. So in the middle school or elementary and middle school, you'll see noted in there that they don't have that information. So there's not really a lot of information that they have to go on with those at the elementary and middle school. However, at the high school, they did report on some data, and the data went in from our school, from Jenny and Brandon. And so I wanted to talk about that because this data, I mean, we want to be transparent, and we're required to post this out to our public, our community. So this will go on our website after tonight if it isn't already on there. Joel may have put it on there, put a request to get it up on our website a couple of days ago. And when we look at the data, it all looks great until you get to 9th grade on track. And there's a situation going on there with us in 9th grade on track. If you're looking at the state and the state requirements of 24 credits, then you have 6 credits a year. For in the freshman year, they complete 6 credits, they're on track to graduate because it's 6 credits a year. However, in Creswell, it's 25 credits to graduate. And one of those credits, that one 25th credit, happens in the senior year. So in reality, they couldn't take 6.25 credits, or that wouldn't be the appropriate amount of credits for them to be on track to graduate in their senior year. 6 credits would be. But that's not how it was reported out. They divided the credits for graduation up into the 25. And so then it was 6.25 for the freshman year. And so we got dinged on that by about 50%. Because 86% of our students have earned 6 credits in their freshman year, and they would be on track to graduate. So Jenny can talk about how the data went in and what happened there, but as I understand it to be, that's why we're showing at 34% on track, because they held us to a 6.25 credit requirement to meet that standard rather than 6. That sounds confusing to you? Because it is. It's a little complicated. But Jenny, did you have anything to add to that?
I mean, they don't have the benefit of seeing the data sheet that I sent to you, but Mike is correct that the data sheet that I sent him, I would be happy to send out to board members as well.
Do you
It's
want
either based on the,
Can you put it up on the screen?
I'm not host. I don't think I can.
Okay.
I could share it with Joel and he could put it up.
I think I can make you a co-host if you like, and
Yeah, I can
here we go.
pull it up.
So while Jenny's doing that, can I ask a question? I don't know the history of why we have 25 credits and the state requirement's 24. Is there like a
I can talk
historical-
about that too.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, so let me pull this up here. I always end up sharing the wrong screen, so hopefully I share the right screen. Many schools have more than the 24 credits, especially smaller schools, because we don't have enough electives that students can just kind of take whatever they want, and we don't overfill our classes. So it was very similar, like in the Dalles or in Dufur, where I was. Dufur actually had 26 graduation requirements, because if you're on a 7-period schedule, like Creswell was previously, you can earn 28 credits. But because you have such a small FTE of teachers, it's hard to get a rotation of electives to where kids haven't taken all of the electives by the time they get halfway through their senior year. So you sometimes will bump up, like Dufur said, you have to take 2 PEs. Here we do personal finance, which is an important class and meets a graduation requirement. The full year of health. So I would imagine that adding the courses like personal finance, economics, and government versus just saying 3 social science courses, that's kind of how you end up with those 25 credits. Really, it comes down to being able to spread out the FTE, because we're really kind of at that space in growth where we're, not quite big enough to add teachers, but too big that we don't want to burst at the seams. So that's where the 25 credits comes in. Any questions around that before I share my screen? Okay.
I lowballed you on that one on the percentage. If it had gone in or at the 6 credits earned to be on track, we would be at 91% of our 9th grade on track this year, which is consistent with the pattern that we've had, or the trend we've had over the last 4 years.
We would have had 91 students of the 107 on track. So I think what you're looking at, I hope, is it should say Creswell 9th grade on track data at the top. And so this first paragraph right here is just a definition of what it is, and it talks about the 6 credits if you're at the state standard of 24. So that's what Mike was talking about in regards to the 6 or the 6.25 or more credits. Like for some schools who offer more, then they would have more credits that their students need in order to graduate. So if you look here at this middle section, this is our data lined out. So we had 107 students, freshmen last year. 35 of those students completed 6.5 credits. And part of that is, as opposed to the 7, is the shift to comprehensive distance learning and to, in a week's time, build a schedule that would allow for students to be on campus, students to learn in hybrid, and students to be in comprehensive distance learning, also while getting all of the graduation requirements in and a limited number of FTE to spread the wealth when we had to socially distance and break students up into cohorts. So 6.5 credits, 56 of those students completed 6 credits. During the summer, one of these 56 students made up a 0.5 credit, and one of the students made up a credit. So you can bump those up to that 35 students completed. The unfortunate thing is I didn't get access to this report to check that data till after it was due. So I couldn't add those students to our ratings. So there they are written out. 9 students completed 5.5 credits. One of those also made up 1.25 credits during the summer. And then 6 students had less than 5 credits. One of those students made up 1.25 credits. It included 2 students who joined us in second semester or at the very end of first semester, and both of those students came to us credit deficient. But one of them is a student who has made up credits during the summer. So we actually only had 14 of our 107 students who didn't actually pass a class. So when you look at it from that standpoint, our students did very well. And again, you can see down below, I just said that I noted those who made up credits in the summer program up above. So if you measure by the state required 24 diploma credits, 91 of our 107 students, or 85% of them, would have been on track. And last year, or the previous year, and not 1920 because they didn't report it in 1920, also because of COVID reasons. But in 2018-19, it was 89. And in 2017-18, it was 88. So I think an 85% is above the state level, as you can see, which I don't have that in front of me. I think it was like 78% or 76%, 74. Thank you. Measuring off of the 24 diploma credits, we're still up there with the state at well above the state average. So also in consideration that all of the freshmen this year who are now currently sophomores, they have the opportunity to earn 8 credits this year because we've transitioned into the 4x4 schedule. So they will be, quote, back on track if you're dividing it out on our 25 credits versus the state 24, they'll actually be ahead of the game by the end of their sophomore year. And so the other thing, I mean, just to note, which has already been said, we go from 28, or in a 7-period day, students could earn 28 credits in 4 years. Now they can earn 32 credits in 4 years. And our credit requirement is still 25. And the other noteworthy thing, and it hadn't really, it'll take effect this year, but it just made me really happy. It made me smile because we had a neat kiddo that came back to us and was out of school for 2 years, and is going to be able to make up 2 grade levels of math and language arts in our 4x4 schedule. So rather than being behind his cohort at the end of this year, he'll be back with his cohort. And that's going to be the same with our students taking pre-algebra this year. They're going to be able, rather than taking pre-algebra all year long, they're doing pre-algebra this first semester. They'll do algebra their next semester, and they'll go into geometry with their cohort class as sophomores. So I think while the kind of combined data as it gets reported to the state doesn't look awesome, I think we still did a fabulous job as a school of educating our students, including our freshmen, as you can see in these numbers. So, and then as Mike was talking about, this just sort of explains what he had said. You know, our district requires 25 credits. So that's why the data looks different, because we didn't offer 6.25. We either offered 6, or some kids were able to get 6.5. And so one of the things, as I mentioned, is with the 4x4, we have more credits, but also we dropped some of those specific credit requirements down. So all of PE is completed their freshman year. That doesn't mean they can't take more PE for a credit, but at least that specified graduation requirement is completed their freshman year. They also complete half of their health credit their freshman year. So that's out of the way. And then they'll do another health credit their junior year. Career exploration is a class that we ask freshmen to take, and we look at all of our career pathways and help students find an interest. And that fills one of the 3 CTE or fine arts credits. So we've really brought some credits down into that freshman year to help make sure that they're not only on track, but that they're also meeting those specific graduation requirements, so that as they move forward, they can really focus on those pathways or those electives or advanced courses that are going to lead to their program of study post high school. So that was a lot really fast. Questions? And let me know if you need me to scroll on that at all or enlarge it.
So based on your Q&A, does that mean, does that mean we just miscalculated how we sent the data? I mean, if I read it, it says you can remove the 1 credit.
We didn't miscalculate how we sent it because ODE draws from our transcripts as information gets put in. So I would say that the misunderstanding is that it's not based on the 24, but it is based on the 25. So ODE has calculated it the same as they have every year, according to the research that I did. So I don't know that we can send it in wrong. It's just how it gets pulled, and it got pulled against the 25 credits that we offer versus the 24 that the state offers.
Interesting.
I don't know if I answered that right.
You did. I'm interested in, they have a Q&A on how to handle 25 credits. I'm assuming we got that from ODE.
Yeah, that came from the manual.
And so it's interesting to me that it says you can do that, but you don't necessarily get to control how you send that data in, that they calculate it for you.
Well, as I mentioned, I didn't have access to, I didn't see it until it was already sent. Like it goes in, and then when they send it back to us, those reports weren't coming to me. So I didn't get to double check the credits that it was against. And I think even if I could have, ODE would have said, well, you still offer 25 credits. Yes. And last year was COVID year. I don't know that I need to use that for an excuse. We're just going to take our data for what it is, know that we're doing a good job, and improve for next year.
Mike, do you know what our percentage was last year? I mean, these aren't new. I'm guessing that's been on there. Do we know historically?
Last year it was not reported. Again, because of COVID, because they lowered the graduation requirements anyway. And in the years prior, 2018-19, we were at 89%, and 2017-18, we were at 88%. I think one piece of data to look at too is the improvement, even in previous years, from their freshman year to their senior year, because our on-time graduation in 2017 was 78. And even last year, we're at 85%. And again, I need to look at how the state pulls that, because I looked and we had 72 seniors. 4 of them were returning seniors, and 1 of them is finishing this year. And even counting those who had struggled, that put us at 69 out of 72 students who graduated for a 95.8% graduation rate. So even if they're looking at this data at 35%, I'm really excited to say in 3 years that we're going to have 100% graduation rate.
How do we explain this to the community?
I think with the sheet that I just
Are we going to make that
together.
available?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Let me know how you want it.
We hired someone for that, right? A communications person. She'll probably do a much better job than I would, but I think it's important. If I were a community member, I would ask the question.
Absolutely. And they should.
As I am a community member, I should say.
Yes, you are.
Thank you, Jenny, for explaining.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, definitely not what you want to explain after your first year as a principal, but thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jenny. That's a tough one. Good job. Yeah. And when it's in black and white, it's hard to communicate or explain why it is what it is, but it won't be like that next year.
Email this to Marilyn and she can get it out to y'all.
We'll just put it up on the website unless somebody wants it. They can.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Jenny, for explaining that. All right. Our last bit of new business is discussion about CEA intent to bargain.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. I mentioned it earlier when I announced the committee membership for the Labor Management Committee and the policy committees. But the CEA has given me notice that they intend to bargain this year. You know, in their contract, it says they can roll over the year. Contract as is, just roll over with the COLA that's in it, and you know, you just move it up and you bump up the insurance, all relative to the year. But they want to open up the contract this year and bargain it. So that's something the board has to know. Lacey, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think it's pretty, I would say, normal business for them to let us know that they want to bargain. In my day job, we also have unions, and I would say it's pretty standard across the country for most governmental entities to just know that they need to bargain. There's been a lot of changes in the environment. So this doesn't send up a red flag for me. I would just say this is normal, and I appreciate them letting us know early. So.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right. Any other questions on the intent to bargain? All right. Moving right along to reports with trustee reports. Lacey, do you want to take over this? Do you want me to just keep on going?
I think you should just keep going, Ashley. You're doing awesome. Thank you.
You're doing very well.
All right, trustee reports. Let's start with Mike Anderson.
Already, I've had the opportunity to be part of the chain gang at a few football games. One and two of them in particular has been really exciting. When a fan comes charging right over your shoulder and goes out on the field and gets kicked out of the stadium, add a little excitement to it, but it was really fun. I've been to both the high school and middle school cross country meets. And then of course we had a training session a week or so ago. Something I want to mention, I've been going to Lane ESD meetings for several years now, and my work's going to keep me out of town. Not so bad in the next couple months, but next spring I'm going to be gone quite a bit of the time. And so if anybody would want to go to any of those meetings as sub to kind of get an idea of what Lane ESD does and how they operate, I would appreciate it if maybe somebody could pick up the slack for me and go to a few of those. I'll tell you ahead of time that after each meeting, you have to give a little summary of what's going on at the schools, which is not in any big deal, but kind of give just a little 10,000 foot view of what's going on at the schools, what you've been doing and that kind of thing. But it's really, really a good group to kind of learn, get an idea if you've never been there before, what they're up to and how they do it. But let me know, and maybe we can work out some kind of a system we can trade, or maybe we can both go together at one time to kind of get you introduced to everybody there. But if there's any interest there, let me know.
Mike,
And-
why don't you just take a minute right now? And if folks are interested in backing up Mike, just raise your hand so that he knows. And then as his work calls him away, he can just connect with you directly. So I
Okay,
see
yeah.
3 people, Mike, just to coordinate with.
Okay, I see Tim and Ashley. Who's the other one?
Debbie.
Debbie.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'll get a hold of you guys and we'll get that done. They're really a well-run group, and you'll like. They usually give a little presentation at the head of each meeting about what they're up to, but I think they do a great service for us, and it'd be good to know who they are and really what they're about. So yeah, I'll give you guys a call and we'll figure out some times for you. Great, thank you very much.
Cool. Tim.
Well, except for the training, I have been addressing personal matters and haven't had a chance to get to a football game or a volleyball game, and I really hope to do that coming up. So I hope to do better, but I haven't really had a chance to do that as of yet.
All right, Candace.
This month is October. I have had the opportunity to go to a number of football games, practices, and I joined the volleyball tournament that Creswell had, which was pretty, there's some good schools there. It was pretty exciting to watch. I meant to go to the band concert last night, but I fell asleep. So one less thing, but those are the things I've been, and our workshop on the 29th.
Great. Mark Parker.
That's right. That's me. So yeah, training session. Not a whole lot in the district, but I have been doing some work with veteran suicide intervention, and of course the continued support of the Vietnam vet that's a shut-in that I help take care of. But that's it.
Great. Miss Debbie.
Unmute is so tricky.
There you go.
I actually couldn't remember everything that I have done because I've been so busy, but I have been at like every game, all volleyball and football games, because I'm a booster. So I get the opportunity to go to all of those games. I see Brandon a lot. He's always there working hard. And I see Jenny a lot. Also, I've gone to a couple girls soccer games. I did the board training. We did the big dog golf tournament, and a number of people on the board attended that as well. Also, I finished my my vector training that we had to do. That's it.
Great. Thank you for reminding me to do that training. Lacey.
All right, I have had the opportunity to work with both Mike and Mike on the chain gang at the high school games as well. So that has been super fun. I'm learning tons about football that I did not know before. And I have seen all the middle school football games. My son is a player on the team as well. And then I've seen a couple of the middle school volleyball games, and it is awesome how many of our middle schoolers are out for volleyball. So that is super cool. There's even talk among the football team that they would love to start a boys volleyball game. I don't know who they'd play, but they just want to play volleyball. So that's kind of fun. I've done my mandatory reporting, did the work session on the 29th. I also attended the IRC training. And so one of the great benefits for me of being able to work from home for the next year is that I got to commit to reading, helping first grade reading over the next year. So my spot is going to be on Friday mornings. And so I attended the IRC, and then this Friday is going to be my first introduction to sitting down with a group of first graders and, reading cat and hat and sat and all those words. So I'm kind of excited about that. The other thing is I also help with the Creswell Food for Kids, and on Friday afternoons, we deliver those bags of food to the households that need that. So it's a pretty cool function that the group does, because when the backpacks of food went home from the school, we had a couple issues trying to get to the families that really needed it. The first issue was with the super young kids. They could not carry a backpack full of canned food home. It just a weight versus small body mass issue. And so being able to deliver that helps. And then when you get into the older kids, they didn't want to self-identify. They did not want their peers seeing them leave an office with a bag of food that meant they were struggling at home. And so it's a needed function. And so if any of you are interested and have a Friday evening, it's usually about 5 o'clock, you swing by the hub and pick up the bag of food, you deliver to a couple homes. We can partner you up with somebody so that you're doing it every other Friday as well. So if you're interested and want to do that, let me know. Or if you know Lisa Ross, she coordinates that. You can let her know that you're interested and she'll partner you up as well. So let's see. Oh, and I covered the Lane ESD meeting for Mike last week when he was on the road and was not going to make it to Wi-Fi by 6 p.m. Darn Wi-Fi. They had a great presentation, and the presentation that Mike had mentioned before that they usually do at each meeting, this one was about a summer program that, and I can't find my notes right now, I'm sorry, but it was a Hispanic based summer program where they brought kids in from around the county and really helped them kind of take pride in their culture. It was the reports, the student reports that we read, let them know that even though they're in a country that primarily speaks English, they can be proud of their heritage. And so I loved reading that kids were excited to know that being Hispanic is something that they can be proud about, even though they're an English language learner. And so that was a pretty cool presentation. And I love knowing that camp exists for folks, and will hopefully be an opportunity each summer for kids to get into. And I believe they said some of the kids from our district attended as well. So I don't know a count on that, but anyway, so that was a great board meeting. And Lane ESD is still meeting by Zoom as well. So it should be pretty easy to coordinate and be able to get to those meetings for those of you that are going to help out Mike. Okay, that's it for me. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Lacey. I did the OSBA training. We met last week for our leadership meeting. And then I also, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was on the 5th, attended the OSBA webinar regarding masks and vaccination laws and what that means for folks on the school board, which was very informative. It's on their website if you want to check it out. And then that was all I was up to. I am looking for opportunities. So Lacey, please let me know about the food for kids. I'd love to jump back on that.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, cool. Great. All right. So business manager reports. Any questions for Chanel? Okay. I'm not seeing anything. Technology and facility report. Any questions for Joel? All right. Transportation report.
Oh, sorry, I do have.
Sorry, Candace.
No, I was late. It wasn't you. Can we get a little bit of an update on the costing? Sorry, I'm trying to find it on the report now. for the turf field at the middle school.
Absolutely. Yes. So I have to be sensitive at the moment because I'm actually in the middle of negotiating.
Okay. Less is
but
more.
I
I'm
will
okay
say-
with that.
Yeah, no, you're perfectly fine. And so I'd like to say I have some encouraging words and encouraging information that we had 2 quotes come in from 2 different companies. They're really the go-to companies for turf in the Pacific Northwest. And they were good. They were good proposals. They had some key differences, and we're negotiating and working with one of the companies now. I'm going to have this buttoned up by Friday. And Candace, I if you want, I can shoot you a call or check in with you or any board member and share that information with you guys. I want to be respectful to the idea that I'm in the middle of working with the company.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I would love to hear more if you get something done. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I would have, obviously at the next board meeting, we'll have, the more detailed information about it. But again, I'll have it all buttoned up by Friday, or that's my goal, is to have it buttoned up by Friday.
Okay, awesome. And you know me, I have more questions about facilities because I've been all over this facility thing last year. So I saw the stuff about the softball and the baseball field. Love that. So I'm assuming early spring means before season starts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. In fact, the work is going to start on the baseball this weekend, and that's because they're going to be doing some repair work on the irrigation system. And the key piece there is we need to do it before the freeze comes, because we can't test. The easiest way to know where to repair the irrigation is to turn it on. Where's it start to puddle? Where's it not coming out at? It's the classic fix, right? Where's the leak? Where's the water coming from? And you don't want to do that in the dead of winter, because you'll have, you just can't do it because it runs from the well. We winterize the well in probably another 3 weeks. The well is going to be winterized. So he's going to start that process this weekend with the goal of getting that resolved. And that also involves some groundwork, which will be good because you want to get all those repairs in and all that rough in. And then when the new topsoil comes in and the grass seed and everything else, we're going to let Mother Nature help us and then pick it up again. There'll be kind of a dormant piece, right? Dead winter, and pick up again right before the season starts. I kind of wish baseball, softball didn't start so early. Gosh, you guys start.
Me too. It's still wet.
I mean,
yeah,
it's nuts to think about, but we'll do the best we can.
Okay.
And I'm also looking at extending some time with the contractor we have to help facilitate moving forward into the spring season, having him on board with maintaining, and because he's going to be involved with making the improvements, I don't want to lose that momentum that he's going to have, that company, in keeping that momentum going. But I didn't have this in my board report, but I'll share it with you guys and have more details next board meeting. But we just hired our landscape maintenance, halftime landscape maintenance person. So the key and neat thing about that is that particular individual will be able to take on some of those work and maintaining of our facilities when it comes to the grounds, and maintaining the improvements that we're making with the football field and the baseball, softball fields. But again, I don't want to lose the person that's doing the work. We'll tie those folks together. So anyway, I'll have more information about that new hire at my next board report, but it kind of fits this conversation.
Yeah, fair enough. And then I would love to see on the next board report any updates with the long conversation we've all been having around resurfacing the football field after the season's over, and when that slots into in comparison to track and field and all of those other things that we know happen.
Oh, absolutely. And I can give you a very quick brief on that. Is the same company that I'm working with, they're coming down next week to look at the high school football field with Brandon and I. Right. It's always a little enticing when you can kind of say, hey, you got this job at the middle school, but guess what? We got a bigger job on track or in the bullpen. Yeah. Look at that. I use a sports term.
Yeah, nice job.
That's a big enticement for a company. And so we're pretty excited about that idea. So I'll have more information about that as well, hopefully I will, you made that request, but hopefully I'll even have some really good details.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate those.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Joel. Special services report. Does anybody have any questions for Amy?
I got a question. I loved hearing about Bethany's work, and I think she was one last year that just really stood out as helping our Spanish speaking students feel at home in the district. So I love that we've kept her. That's fantastic. With all the staff changes. When it's talking about the translation ticket, does that just simply mean like a work order system that we're just submitting that we need a page or like either a web page or something translated? And does that come from the parent? Is that how that works?
That's a great question. So she's working on the help ticket system to some degree with Joel. And yeah, so that would come typically from staff. So for example, if we had a document that needed specific translation, a letter to families, an IEP document, anything really, they would work through to translate that into the native language. And so the ticket system is just so we can divvy it out to one individual who can pick it up and take that task on.
I see. Thank you. I wasn't quite sure whether it was a program that like automatically translated or whether that was meant as like, how do we just figure out how to get this done?
Yeah, well, and I should add that they use a translating software, but they were finding enough errors where they realized that having that individual touch was much better.
Yeah, artificial intelligence isn't
isn't
completely replacing us yet, is it?
Thank goodness.
Yeah. I agree. Second question on the teletherapy model. Sounds like a great solution for the speech therapist aspect. The school psychologist piece makes me just a little bit nervous, only in the sense that I love my therapy when I go through it, but it's only been in person. So I don't know what that's like when it's an emotional issue and it's through a computer screen. So do you have some confidence with that? Are you seeing some results?
Well, we use our school psychologists a little differently. So we do have counselors that support in person. And we actually contract with outside agencies, and then we have our in-house counselors. But the school psychologists are mostly doing academic or cognitive assessments. And so those, they actually can be done. They have a platform that they use online, and the students, there's a video camera going, and they can engage a student with, it's typically a test booklet or even some manipulatives, and they run through it that way. Yeah,
so it's more testing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Great question.
Okay. No more for me, Ashley.
Great. Any other questions for Amy? All right. Communications and community engagement report. Any questions for Julie?
What's been the response on our logo?
Well, I said, Mike, if you want to take it there, I said, you guys, so I said, we have not launched it publicly yet because we wanted you to be the first to get a chance to see it. But we're looking forward to starting to integrate it and build that identity around. Eager to hear your thoughts. And I said, we're trying to find a way to be able to bridge the various mascots and schools and yet really transmit and show through the visual imagery what the district is all about, and we hope we've captured that.
So I without having a huge sports background, I don't know what can of worms I'm opening when I ask this question. So if I see some like really cold stares, I'll get that this is not an appropriate question. Since we have just one school at each grade level, why are we not all the Creswell Bulldogs? Why don't we all have like one identity? I would get it if there's like multiple schools that feed into something.
Well, we need pups, puppies, and bulldogs. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't gotten to see Amy or Julie wear their new mascots yet, so we can't switch until that happens.
Yeah, too late. We got a horse.
And CMS has tigers everywhere. I mean, you would be talking thousands of dollars in
I know.
So unless you can somehow turn that tiger into a bulldog,
I brought that up actually when I got the job, and I learned very quickly zip it. So that's what I did. I was like, oh, apparently that's a very hot topic with some folks, and I'm just gonna leave that alone. So we bought a new mascot outfit. We're still the Tigers, Lacey. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm a quick learner. I learned. I just stopped. We're also the Tigers, but we're green and yellow. So riddle me that. I mean, I'm a Ducks fan, but still, we're the Tigers. Anyone ever seen a green and yellow tiger?
Well, I've seen a blue horse.
Okay. All right. I don't know. I think the logo, I love how it's explained that you're trying to blend all the different colors and moving it in. I love how the little red person in the logo has a graduation hat on. That's pretty cool. So I just hope there's some staff engagement and staff, conversations around the logo.
That's great. Well, I said it definitely is. The team was able to weigh in, and I said as we roll it out and be able to, I said I hope everyone will feel that what was behind the goal is to have something that brings together all three schools and represents the one team, one dream aspect that is articulated. And that was one of the nicest things as part of some of the staff surveys that are coming back in for the summer enrichment program and things. As someone new to the district, I love that is coming through so clearly from staff members, how important it is to them to be working in a district that collaborates that way across the three schools. So I said, I'm definitely learning that very quickly, that's an important aspect of the district. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
I'm excited to see we're updating our website because I find our website to be very not user-friendly. So I appreciate that work.
I agree. I'm very excited that it's changing.
Great. All right. So administrator reports. Any questions for Amy, Holly, Julie, or Jenny?
I have questions and comments probably across all three. At the elementary school, the scores, of course, just look awful. I imagine those are similar kinds of scores for schools around the country, probably, that are evaluating how kids are coming back from distance learning.
Yeah, I think that it's a combination of that. It's also a new assessment. And so there's a little bit of learning and just how to take the assessment because it's on screen. So for some kids, it could have been that they've raced through it. There's an indicator on the assessment that they'll put a little flag up. And so there was a number of kids that had a flag next to their name, which indicates they spent less than 15 seconds on questions. So some of it wasn't accurate, but I will say a big part of it does have to do with some of the lost learning from the pandemic. And one of the other things to say is just when we used Easy CBM, it wasn't as comprehensive. And so we really weren't given as much data to be able to respond instructionally to what our students' needs were. And so this will give us a lot better tools to be able to target the instruction and hopefully be able to fill in those holes. So what you don't see is we can actually dig a little deeper into this data down to classrooms and actually individual students. And so teachers can see a student report and it'll outline all the standards where there's a deficit and be able to kind of group students accordingly. So that will be a really helpful tool for that. And then also the yellow is actually not super horrible. It just means that they are at the end of their second grade or the end of their third grade. So it doesn't mean they're like missing a whole year's worth of instruction at the beginning of the year. So at the beginning of third grade year, if it shows that they're second grade, it's saying that they're still at the second grade level. It doesn't mean at the very beginning, it could be that they're still missing some skills. So hopefully as the year goes on, those bars will definitely turn a little bit more green, but even still, it's not horrendous for the fall data.
I appreciate that, Amy. It sounds like Mike has talked a lot about the tool with me as well, and it sounds like a great tool. So love the fact that we're getting some tools in that give teachers more data to help. And it just looked daunting. So I hope your whole school feels like, okay, we can do this, because it just looked daunting from a novice looking at it. So
I'll tell you what, Lacey, when you're from a teacher's perspective, it takes a lot of courage to go from easy CBM to because of the difference in rigor of those assessments. If it was about looking good, making the data look good, staying with easy CBM is going to make them those scores would look a lot better.
I also add, in years past when we've shared easy CBM data, those little triangle graphs and whatnot that just show the red, yellow, and green. When I don't know the full history, but I know, so when Creswell School District went with easy CBM, it was part of the whole, like a consortium of other schools. And so we're in the same data set as other rural schools around us. And there had to be an agreement on what the threshold was. So with that group of whoever those individuals were way back when, they set the benchmark at 30%. And we certainly don't feel that 30% is benchmark. So on those graphs, it would show kids that were in 30% were in the green. So visually, our data always looked a lot better than maybe it really was, because the standards were pretty low. In my experience in my past districts, the benchmark was always 50% and above. So one of the things that we did talk about when I got to Crest Lane and looking at the data was, let's not just be satisfied with green. Let's look at those kids that are between 30 and 50. And we still need to provide some intervention, because 30% is not good enough to be benchmark. So the data does look a little worse because we're used to seeing things looking pretty stacked.
I really appreciate all that information, and I agree, more rigor is better. So thank you for that.
Do you benchmark this again throughout the year? So they take it at the beginning. When's the second?
Yeah, so we'll do a winter. I believe we're going to be doing it at the end of January, beginning of February time. There's a window where we set the diagnostics for all kids, and then we'll do it again in the spring near the end of the year.
All right, thank you.
Great. Did anybody have any other questions for Julie or Jenny?
I just wanted to say a couple huge kudos. One, to the middle school for the photography grant. I think that's awesome to have so many cameras running around in kids' hands, getting to explore that. So that's awesome. And then being at the different games, I think having the athletic trainer that was in the high school report, but I have also seen him at the middle school games as well. That has been a fantastic addition. So thank you so much for having him available. I think it's just been fantastic.
He was a good hire.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, great.
I also wanted to just give a kudo to Jack Stepp for working with that graphic design opportunity and getting kids in that. That sounded like a great opportunity for those kids to get to explore that field a little bit. So pass a huge kudos on to Jack for me, please.
All right, Mike, you're up with the superintendent report.
Okay. So if you will, just imagine there's an emoji out here on the screen of Mike, the superintendent, looking at the A team saying, whoop, whoop, hip, hip, hooray. I mean, this team is unbelievable. Diehards. I mean, they just keep going. Running a system, a COVID system alongside the system that we normally run for education is really difficult, because sometimes there's collisions there as far as needing a principal here and needing a principal there and designing a system here to run with that there. And then, oh yeah, we got to pick up the kids and move them along too. It's really a challenge, but this team works together. Every one of them. They just, what they need, they get a lot of support across the board, but they just keep giving and giving and giving to get this thing done. I just don't, we have an incredible staff in CSD. I mean, you know, this whole system has been lifted and then recreated, lifted and recreated, lifted and recreated. And we're still rolling along, and the kids are enjoying school. There's a lot of hard work to be done, but the kids are enjoying it, and that's what it's all about. This A team, though, I have to be really cautious with them because they do work a lot more than this whole thing that we're in right now doesn't give any grace on the other responsibilities that each of them have. They still have those, and now they have this. And we're moving into a time now, well, we've already started to move into that, where we're upgrading the rigor of our curriculum. We are now, for the second year, and rolling out new standards in a subject area, health. That takes a lot of work from the administrators to do that research, to lead those teams, to get that information out, to bring it and present it to you for the adoption. Now we're going into building an evaluation system. And again, the administrators are going to be in that team. And then we're going to go into another curriculum process, adoption process for math. And if we can, we'll be going into ELA. That's how our timeline, that's what's set up for us coming up. We got to give them some time because they are burning the candle at both ends, nights and days. And I want to excuse them from the board meetings for the future. They're going to be inundated in these committees from here until June, maybe May. The reports will keep coming. If there are questions for them, we'll get them to them. You let me know, and we'll get it in the reports. But it's, at some point, you got to start moving things and getting things off the plate, because there's a lot coming on, and we need them. We need their leadership. We need it where everything happens. To make this thing, to get to the next level. They all want to do it, no hesitation. And they didn't ask me to do this, but on their behalf, I'm going to excuse them from these evenings, as many as I can. I hope you understand. Any questions? Okay. So speaking of systems, I'm going to feature my report tonight on the COVID-19 system. One of them anyway. We have so many, but we've just developed another one. And this one has to do with the mandatory vaccination and how we're going to stay alive. We had to get a system in place to be able to sustain the district. No kidding. Can't let the system break down. My responsibility is to keep the system going, not to tear it down. Anything I can do to keep it going, it's got to happen. So we developed a system to carry us through an obstacle or navigate an obstacle, and that's the mandatory vaccination. Not saying it's bad or good, that's not my place. My place is to look at this district and say, my responsibility is to make sure kids are learning, people are safe, and we're moving forward. So with that, I developed some priorities around this over the summer. Those of you that were at the Welcome Back kickoff heard me speak about the priorities. And my priorities were to maintain a safe environment for all students and staff, number one. Number two, maintain in-person learning. we were determined, this whole team across the board, that we were going to in-person learning. We had to design systems to be able to make that happen, just to go into in-person learning, and then new systems to maintain it. And we're still improving our systems to keep our kids in school, to mitigate the spread in our schools. Maintain stability in staffing and positions so that we don't have to cut services to our kids. We lose staff, we lose programs. We lose programs, we lose supports. We lose supports, we lose kids. We can't lose kids. They're already casualties in this whole thing. Not by our fault, and not by theirs, but it's just the reality of it. And maintaining our employees in CSD, it's hard to get good employees. We work hard to train and develop them. We bring them together into this family, and then what? Something comes along and we cut 25% of them out. That doesn't fit in those 4 priorities. So with that mandate 2 standards that I've talked to staff about as I've gone through my meetings, the one is that we will follow the laws. We follow the OSHA rule and the OHA rule, and that rule is enforced by OSHA, OHA, ODE, and TSPC. So mandatory vaccination, got to comply. People got to be vaccinated. People got to submit their exceptions. By the 19th, that's the dawn of it all. I mean, that's when the sun goes down. The second standard is working with our local authority. There's a misperception out there that when the governor says we're shifting things to a local decision, that it's our decision. That's not true. When they shift it to the local decision as a health authority, that goes to our local health authority. Our local health authority then directs things. Then I'm working underneath that to comply. A good example is that, when we have close contact to a positive COVID case, we have to quarantine those close contacts. Well, in Lane County, it's a 14-day quarantine. In all other counties, it's a 10-day quarantine. The local decision was made by Lane County Public Health. It's a 14-day requirement. We don't have that 10-day option. So that's a local decision. We find a system to be able to comply with that. So that's the second standard of getting through this. The law. After October 18th, 2021, teachers, school staff, and volunteers may not teach, work, learn, study, assist, observe, or volunteer at a school unless they are fully vaccinated or have provided documentation of a medical or religious exception. That's the law. 18th is the deadline. The 19th changes everything in October. That's a week away. Schools that grant medical or religious exceptions must take reasonable steps to ensure that unvaccinated teachers, school staff, and volunteers are protected from contracting and spreading COVID-19. Schools that grant, districts that grant, schools means districts. In this case, when I'm interviewing these people and granting them an exception, then it's me, it's my license. So take reasonable steps means to ensure, how am I guaranteeing that I'm putting more protections in? Layers is what they're talking about. Reasonable steps is layers of protection beyond what's required of vaccinated people. So there's a division here. So when we're looking at this, when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the different positions, all the moving parts of the district and all the people who are unvaccinated and how we're going to keep this thing rolling if on the 19th they're gone, because that's what the law states. OHA later came out with the definition of reasonable steps. Reasonable steps may include weekly testing. This is for those people who are unvaccinated. A fitted 95N mask. A fitted is a professional one. Means they have to have it professionally fitted. That's what the standard is from OHA. We don't have professionals here to fit masks, but that's one of those. Additional distancing, 6 foot for adults is the standard. 6 foot from adult to adult, 6 foot from adult to kid. So additional distancing is beyond 6 foot. Based on the position, 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet. Decisions. A face mask with a face shield, double masking is what it's called out there. A remote workspace, moving them remote. We're in person. Remote work doesn't really work for 99% of our staff. Could, but it doesn't. Not when we're in full go, and we intend to stay in full go in person. Or other steps. When they mention other steps here, what is other steps? We went to legal counsel to find out what other steps were. Superintendents need to know because we're the ones that are looking at how to make this happen. Other steps are unpaid leave or termination. So reasonable accommodations, legal definition, unpaid leave or termination. What guarantees that an unvaccinated person is not going to contract the disease in school? They're not here. What guarantees that they're not going to spread it in school? The only guarantee is they're not here. So that's the challenge. Come up with a system to maintain the stability of the district with all of that considered. Well, fortunately, on our licensed faculty across the district, we had 97.1% vaccinated. And in our classified membership, we had 79.31%, so 80%. We reached up to 88% across our district of vaccinated staff. That's pretty amazing. That's in the higher side of things when you look at data across the state. We're in the high end of it. That's great. But that still leaves a good chunk of staff, 25 of them unvaccinated. 25 staff, 2 staff in this district, and we're hurting. We lose 2 staff members and we lose 5 and we're in a crisis. So 25. We're at almost 100% with maintaining the stability of our staff at this point. All those that were unvaccinated have been interviewed, each position and what's required to put those layers of protection in there to protect them, and others have been assigned to them. And that's what you see in those other 2 documents there, the contracts, if you will. And so, like you got to keep your family together. You got to keep it together for the kids. And the 19th isn't going to be as dark in Creswell as it is going to be in some of our other neighbors areas. Because we have staff that are willing to do these things when they have these exceptions. Their beliefs, same as you have beliefs, I have beliefs. And, every person deserves respect and grace. But more than anything, the kids deserve to have their schools and their programs. So that's There are other things on my report. I left off the dang golf tournament because I did enjoy that. That was a lot of fun, Debbie. I thought that was cool. I'll never miss one. And the board training. I always like working with you, with the board. Any questions on my report or concerns or anything? As usual, I just light it up. Yeah. Okay, well, that's, I want to thank all the A team for getting those. I know they pushed their time at home to get their reports done and get it in. And Jenny, I pushed on her about this at a glance thing because, you know, we just have to keep going at it. And so I just want to thank the team for hanging in there. I love this team.
Mike, the whole team, the whole A team, we all want to wish you this coming weekend a happy Bosses Day, and we appreciate you having our back. So that's from the whole A team. Thanks for all you do.
You know, I knew that was coming. Now let's see how much you like the. Yeah, I set this up. No, I didn't know that. Well, thank you, Julie. Now everybody on the A team knows that because I don't think they knew that, but now you shared it and everybody's aware of it.
They don't worry. They knew already. You just wait. The A team, one dream, Mike. You've got it.
Well, in advance, I thank you for sure. But more than that, I love working with you.
I would like to echo Mike's thanks to all the administrators. I fully support you guys. We appreciate the reports being sent in. We'll miss you at the future meetings, but please don't feel like you need to attend them so that you can have some extra time with your families. I know with all the increased Zooms and things that you're doing with parents and things in your buildings, you're spending many of your evenings on Zoom already. So your reports have been pretty thorough and I really appreciate them. That will certainly suffice for us for a while. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments for Mike? All right. So looking at the calendar, our next board meeting is on November 10th. And then do I read this whole calendar thing, Lacey? Okay. So next board meeting is on November 10th.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley, for doing this for me tonight.
Look at you, Ashley. You go.
I know. You did awesome.
Thank you.
You did great.
All right. If no, I think as Mike Anderson always said, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, the meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Everybody. Take care.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
Ashley.